2001 saw another airshow season in full swing, with aircraft from around the world flying at displays throughout the UK. Although there were fewer shows this year, partly due to the foot and mouth outbreak, crowds at most of the major displays were bigger than ever. However, 2001 will be remembered for the pilots and aircraft that were lost in the early part of the season. This program is dedicated to the memory of those pilots and crew who tragically lost their lives in flying accidents this year. The first major event our crews filmed was at the open day and fly-in at Kemble. This historic airfield had just been saved from redevelopment, and Delta Jets had a big year ahead of them. Their first show was a relaxed event, with jets from around the country flying in and taking part. First to display was Hawker Hunter WV-318, the flagship of Delta Jet's fleet, flown by Andy Cuban. We go in cockpit with Andy, with the first of many mini-cam shots featured in this program. "2001 is the 50th anniversary of the first flight of the Hunter, and many events were planned across the season in celebration. This is a T-7B, which operated with 208 Squadron at RAF Lossiemouth until March 1994 as a two-seat instrument flying trainer for the Buccaneer Force. It was one of the last 4 Hunters to fly in RAF service before being acquired in 1996 by Delta Jets. The aircraft is now painted in gloss black and represents the two-seat T-7 aircraft that flew with the Treble 1 Squadron Black Arrows aerobatic team. The Folland Gnat was the RAF's advanced jet trainer for many years. It was also made famous as being the mount of the Red Arrows in their formative years. This is a T1 version, designed for training, but there was also a single-seat fighter version, although this never saw service with the RAF. Many Hunter pilots would have flown the Gnat as part of their training. Pilot at the show was Dave Room, Delta Jet's chief pilot. Kemble saw a welcome return to an old friend, Canadair C-33A Silver Star. Unfortunately, the weather was not very welcoming, with the appearance of a large thunderstorm. After taking off once and landing immediately, pilot Air Vice Marshal Cliff Spink waited for the storm to pass before taking off in a cloud of spray for his display. Notice the lightning strike in the distance. Owned by the Golden Apple Trust and operated by the Aircraft Restoration Company, the Silver Star has been repainted in its original Canadian Air Force scheme. This aircraft has been absent from the display circuit for many years, and Cliff Spink's display, in poor conditions, showed the crowds what they could expect in the coming season. This jet provost with a fiery paint scheme put on a great aerobatic display. Formerly painted grey with colourful spots, its aerobatic manoeuvres belied the fact that the JP is a low-powered vintage jet trainer. Next up was the fighting version of the JP, the Strike Master. This example, in the colours of the Botswana Defence Force, was flown by Tom Maloney. To finish the day's proceedings was a flypast of 4 Hawker Hunters. Ordinarily, this would be a spectacular sight in itself, but Delta Jets had much bigger plans for later in the year. Keep watching to see one of the most spectacular sights seen at an air show in recent years. The first big military show of the year was held at Mildenhall. This year's show saw the 25th anniversary of Air Fate, christened Silver Wings. First up, and an amazing colour scheme for the F-16 from the Royal Netherlands Air Force. The F-16 is fly-by-wire, which enables it to perform manoeuvres like this. Although a design dating from the 1970s, the F-16 still manages to keep up with the modern generation of fighters. The B-52 is a design dating back to the 1940s that is due to stay in service for decades longer. This extremely reliable bombing platform can dispense its payload from both high and low levels. The bomber pilots featured in this program have not been identified for security purposes because of the ongoing conflict in Afghanistan at the time of making this program. The Buff, as it's known, is a firm favorite with its air crews.
I like the fact that the entire crew concept and how you got to work with guys that you're not looking at. My electronic warfare officer sits behind me facing backwards. I've got two guys downstairs doing the crew coordination to get the mission done. I played American football back in the States, and it's very similar, the teamwork, and it just makes flying a lot of fun. It really does. It's supposed to go till 2044, if you can believe that. It's supposed to outlive both the B-1 and the B-2. It'll be 84 years old, the last airframe. They're going to actually begin phasing it out in 2040, take 4 years, and so the last B-52 will be dropped off at Davis-Monthan in 2044, and it'll be anywhere from 83 to 84 years old.
Much higher tech than the B-52 is the B-1B Lancer.
The B-1 has seen action so far in both Operation Desert Fox in Iraq, and then also with the Operation Allied Force. We're going to display our high-speed capability. We're going to do a high-speed pass, 0.9 Mach at 500 feet. And then we're going to come back around for a slow-speed pass and show some of the slow-speed handling characteristics before we do our full-stop landing. The B-1 is near and dear to the hearts of its crew members because of its outstanding low-altitude, high-speed capabilities. It loves to go low, it loves to go fast. 0.9 Mach, 500 feet, we can actually hook up the terrain following system and fly that totally hands-off. The system itself is capable down to 200 feet. Normally we train at anywhere from 500 to 1,000 feet.
Another piece of American hardware on display at Mildenhall was the A-10 tank buster, known as the Warthog. Its fearsome Gatling gun on the front of the aircraft can dispense 4,200 milk bottle-sized rounds of ammunition. The base at Mildenhall is home to a diverse collection of units. This tactical demonstration showed off some of their capabilities. Staged by 352nd Special Operations Group, whose role is to support special forces in the field, the display features the MC-130 Combat Talon, refueling MH-53 Pave-Low helicopters. Troops from 321st Special Tactics Squadron drop from a helicopter, while the MH-53s circle ahead, providing cover. This demonstration is now especially relevant with the current situation in Afghanistan, where these forces may have been deployed. The motto of the 352nd is right forces, right place, right time, every time. Mildenhall is also the home for KC-135 Stratotankers. These fly refueling missions in support of fighters and other combat aircraft. The refueling boom on the back of the aircraft is flown by a boom operator into place on the receiving aircraft. In this case, an F-15 Eagle. The Swedish Air Force was showing off their next-generation fighter, the JAS-39 Gripen. This aircraft replaces the mighty Saab Viggen in Swedish Air Force service. The Gripen is a highly agile, multi-mode, multi-mission fighter with an advanced canard wing design.
I've flown Viggen in 11 years and I have almost 2,000 hours in the Viggen. But this is a whole new concept. I was flying the air-to-ground version of Viggen, and with this aircraft I can do all the three roles. I can do air-to-air, air-to-ground and air-to-recce on the same sortie. I just use my buttons in the cockpit, so I select the radar modes to be an air-to-ground aircraft or an air-to-air aircraft. And I have the weapon loads who creates me to do all the three parts in the same sortie. We thought about it when we start flying it, and we have been flown Viggen. We said it was like going from a bus to a Formula One or something. It's a really smooth aircraft to fly.
Years ago was 1976, and that was the bicentennial of the United States. On our Independence Day, we threw an open house here at Mildenhall. It wasn't just a flying display at that time. It was 3 hours of flying. We had about 60,000 people come, and we've grown to over 7 hours of flying, and today over 300,000 people here. I think Air Freight's greatest achievement is that it's our opportunity to throw open the gates and let the people of really Europe, but especially the UK and Eastern England, to come on and see what we do every day. It's our way of saying thank you for the support that we get all year long.
This aging C-141 Starlifter carried first-time visitors to Air Fate, the Golden Knights US Army Parachute Display Team. They were joined on their jump by members of the British Army Red Devils Parachute Display Team. Milden Hall saw the first UK display this year for the French Air Force aerobatic team, the Patrouille de France, flying 8 twin-engined Alpha Jet trainers. Their display is more than a match for the British and Italian national teams. Biggin Hill is one of the oldest air displays on the circuit and is usually a great success. However, tragic events at this year's show would have repercussions long after. On the first day of the show, the Venom from de Havilland Aviation landed wheels up. The pilot escaped unhurt, but much worse was to come. Towards the end of the first day's flying, the Vampire, flying in formation with the Sea Vixen, crashed with the loss of both Air Marshal Sir Ken Hare and Jonathan Kerr. After consultations with the aircrew's family, it was decided that the Sunday display would go ahead. But tragedy struck again when this P-63 King Cobra crashed mid-display, with the loss of its pilot, Guy Bancroft Wilson. Because of these events, we have limited our coverage of this year's show. Biggin Hill always has a good selection of warbirds, with this year being no exception. As well as Sally B, there was also a display by the Fighter Collection's B-25 Mitchell.
We try not to be too enthusiastic with it because it is a nearly 60-year-old airplane, and yes, for its size, its performance belies its size and weight. It's quite manoeuvrable. It's quite heavy to manoeuvre around, but its top speed 340 mile an hour, although we tend to keep it to 300 or below. Quite easy to fly and land. It's tricycle undercarriage, so there's no problems with the tail wheel. Makes a lot of noise, so it's a good display airplane. But the only problems with the airplane would be just losing an engine low down on takeoff and whatever, although the performance of this should be pretty good because in the war they flew it up to 35,000 pounds takeoff weights, and in fact noticed in one of the old wartime handbooks, they say if you lose an engine on takeoff, it says land straight ahead, because that was the weights they flew it with bombs. They didn't think about single engine performance, but we fly this at somewhere around about 20,000 pound all at weight, and it should fly reasonably well on one engine. But that's the only thing on the training, is the single engine aspect of it. The rest of it is pretty good, although the only thing you have to remember in displays, it's got quite a lot of mass and if you're tonking along at 250, 300 miles an hour on a downward trajectory, it's quite a hefty aeroplane, so you have to level off quite a bit earlier than you'd normally think in a small aeroplane. It's got a lot of mass there, and you can carry up to 800 gallons of petrol in it, so it's got some weight behind it. But all in all, it's a very honest, very, very nice aeroplane.
Regular visitors to the show are the Breitling fighters, led by Biggin Hill stalwart Ray Hanna. Flying Spitfire, Corsair, P-40 Kitty Hawk and Mustang, the collection is sponsored by the watchmaker Breitling. Their display of close formation warbird flying is probably unmatched anywhere in the world. The Breitling fighters were joined by aircraft from the fighter collection to form a wonderful sounding flypast on the Saturday of the show. Now, take a stomach-churning trip with Will Curtis in the Gold Air Pit Special. This American-built lightweight aircraft really pushes the envelope of display flying. Just imagine the G-forces on Will's body in this routine. RAF Tornado GR1 is a loud and fast addition to any airshow.
This is the pinnacle of your flying career, really, to display an aircraft. And we've both been flying the jet for 6 years now, and this really is kind of the top job for us, really.
So it gives you a new discipline, basically, to try out, you know, so it's quite good.
Now sit back and enjoy the Tornado display sequence from 3 mini-cams in the cockpit and with all the RT between the pilot and navigator.
Good fairness. 100. 115, let's go. Cheers up. Flaps. This is my spin on, mate.
From a flying point of view, it's my slow roll. For an aircraft like this, which doesn't like to do slow rolls and it's not designed to do it, it's actually quite a challenging manoeuvre. The most exciting, I guess, is probably our arrival.
025 is a data, Canadian break 340, 3 banana.
In case you're wondering, the word banana is used to get perfect 1-second spacings.
I've tried to change it a little bit from last year, just so it was my own individual display along with Al. And we changed 1 or 2 things. The arrival we do slightly differently. The guys were doing it from takeoff and we do it from arrival. The Tornado goes very fast at low level, makes a lot of noise, and I think that's what the crowd want to see.
That's 100 spot on. 340. 1 banana, 2 banana, 3 banana, left, right. Track for the slow rolls, looking good, Rich.
What I tend to do for Rich is give him the next event, the entry speed, and also just count down any heights from any manoeuvres that we do. So he doesn't need to look in, he's got me actually telling him what height we are, what speed we need to be at, and things like that.
500 level. 8 up rolling left exit, it's going to be 250. 250 the exit. Nice. Right to left, back to the inverted pass. 025. That's looking good, mate. Roll left to exit, one straight turn, round to 115. You're being tightened up. It's looking good on the spacing. Oh, manoeuvres are go. Very left, 1 to 250. Ready to go. 250. Right to left, back for the 4 point. It's looking good, mate. 3. Nice. Left 305. Idle, left, right, configure. Air brakes are good. Back to 175 for the dirty barrel roll. Spacing's looking good, mate. 3 greens you got, 2 to level. Gears up. Wraps are good. There's the par. Round 1085. Space is looking good, mate. Ready to go. Wings. 330.
2 loud and clear. Loud and clear.
2 bananas.
Extras, listen out, we'll call you running about 2 minutes late.
1 banana, 2 banana. Slack right into the back. Back up, go. Gonna have to pull. Wheels to come, 3 to go. 1. 500. 4. 3 on the rad out. 3. 120. Happy. Come up to you with the red. Brilliant. Swap that there. Left, right. Wherever have you got?
The RAF Museum at Cosford has a fantastic collection of aircraft on display, from V-bombers to World War II fighters. Pride of place goes to the Experimental Jets collection, the finest of its type in the world. It is also on the site of an active RAF station.
The main role of Royal Air Force Cosford is to train people for tomorrow's Royal Air Force. We provide a variety of training for a large number of trades, principally the aircraft technical trades, but also a diverse set of other trades such as photographers, physical training instructors, and a whole host of others.
The annual show at the airfield has broad appeal.
It's very much a family show at Cosford, rather than an enthusiast show as you would see at other places. This is a family event and lots of people enjoying themselves.
Because of the length of the runway at Cosford, many of the jets at the display are based at RAF Shawbury, about 20 miles from Cosford. One of the Shawbury-based aircraft was the RAF display Jaguar.
What I'll be doing today is a low-level aerobatic display in the Jaguar, which will take around 9 minutes. And during that time, I'll be putting the aircraft through its paces, anywhere from +8 to -2G, and everywhere from 120 knots up to 600 knots in a series of linked manoeuvres at low level. The majority of the manoeuvres are for display purposes only. However, what it does do is we do teach pilots how to fly aerobatics in the aircraft, because it relates to practicing aircraft handling towards the limit of how the aircraft performs.
Another aircraft flying out of Shawbury was the BBMF Lancaster, celebrating the 60th anniversary of the type. One of the most evocative aircraft on the display circuit, the Lancaster is usually seen flying with a Spitfire and Hurricane. PA-474 was built in mid-1945 and never saw combat, instead being used on photo reconnaissance duties. It joined the BBMF in 1973. New to the airshow circuit this year is de Havilland Sea Vixen Foxy Lady. Operated by Gwyn Jones and de Havilland Aviation, this naval Cold War warrior was a real handful for the pilots that had to land this beast on aircraft carriers. This example was built in 1964 and served with 899 Squadron until the early 1970s. The Sea Vixen was the last in the line of classic de Havilland fighters. The aircraft was flown at Cosford by Dan Griffith, a CAA test pilot. Another sporting display at Cosford was the French Air Force Mirage 2000.
What I'm trying to show the high maneuverability with this aircraft, the high speed, high Gs, and after that low speed. And I love all in this aircraft because it's a very nice aircraft. Like I prefer on this aircraft is the fly-by-wire control, because the safety flight is very, very nice, and I can do what I want with the stick, and the aircraft will do all his capabilities.
A typically Gallic display is how one member of the crowd put it. Capable of speeds of over Mach 2, the Mirage is agile and responsive, everything you need in a fighter aircraft. It also has two 30mm guns, something that's going to be missing from the next generation of fighters. The origins of the delta wing and no-tail flat design of the Mirage can be seen in one of the museum exhibits, the Fairy Delta. No, it's not an exclusive shot of a flying Wellington bomber, but just one of the large-scale models that flew before the main display at Cosford. These lovingly crafted models are immensely detailed and attracted a great deal of attention at the show. On static display at the show was the RAF's latest aircraft.
The Merlin you see behind me is a support helicopter, as we call it in the Royal Air Force. We work for the Joint Helicopter Command along with all the other UK's battlefield helicopters, and the Merlin will primarily be used as a tactical troop transport aircraft. It is a fourth generation aircraft, it's brand new, and it is well suited to that role. We're now into, with the British Armed Forces, an expeditionary era. We tend to deploy overseas frequently and at very short notice, and strategic deployment, tactical troop transport, flexibility and reliability are all key words when it comes to Merlin. It is hugely suited to all of these roles.
Back on the circuit this year was the Royal Navy Historic Flight Sea Fury. We spoke to Phil Shaw the week before about the aircraft.
The Fury really started life as a land plane design. It was the next progression from the Typhoon Tempest generation, and the Air Force didn't want the Fury as a land-based fighter. They were looking ahead to the jets, and quite rightly so too. The Fleet Air Arm was still interested in having a propeller-driven aircraft, and so its design got adapted from what we'd learned from things like the Corsair. So you've got a widely spaced undercarriage with really good technology for putting an aircraft hard onto a deck, and trying to cram as much power out of a piston engine into a smaller fighter as you could manage, plus fuel. Naval fighters need long legs, and so this thing had plenty of range, particularly with drop tanks. Yes, I think this must have been the ultimate piston engine challenge to put on an aircraft carrier. We had all sorts of problems with some aircraft like the Seafire, and I've talked to guys who flew this onto the deck, and it was challenging, it was difficult. You can see the landing attitude here, the nose stuffed up right up in the air, and although the visibility out of the cockpit is beautiful when it's flying, with the tail down, you can just see yards of heavy metal, frankly. So it was a curved approach, and although the undercarriage was very forgiving, the speed regime was very close to the stall, and if they got low, they pushed power on, they ended up with a thing called torque stall, where the aircraft just rolled over and hit the island or went into the sea. So they had their work cut out putting this thing on the deck, they certainly did. As an aeroplane to fly, it's a complete joy. You're sitting in the middle of it, you feel as though you put the thing on like a glove, and although I've got very, very few hours on it at the moment, I feel very comfortable in the cockpit. I don't mean by that I feel that I know everything about the aeroplane, far from it. I'm on a very steep learning curve, but it is a complete joy to fly. And that difficult visibility when you're approaching the deck transforms itself into something that actually makes the aircraft very easy to fly once you're up and running, because you've got a very good attitude definition with the cowling out in front of you. It's tremendously responsive in all planes, and it's got oodles of power.
The Army Air Corps Blue Eagles are certainly the only formation helicopter display team you'll see in the UK and possibly the world. Flying 4 Gazelles and a Lynx, their spectacular display demonstrates the skill of Army Air Corps pilots. Based at Middle Wallop, the Eagles consists of flying instructors who give up their spare time to fly with the team. The display is designed to give the spectators something to watch at both ends of the crowd line. One of the highlights is the backflip by the Lynx, a gravity-defying maneuver that always draws gasps from the crowd.
Backflip, as we do in the display team, is it's in the hover. There's no more than 5 knots of forward speed. You do not have any backwards or sideways movement. Once you've decided you're in the right position, and it's above 700 feet, you pull a little bit of power to get a rate of climb about 300 feet a minute, which is very unnoticeable from the ground. Once you've achieved that, pull the stick back to the groin, over you go, maintaining the power setting that you were in the hover. Touch a little bit of left pedal to keep it as straight as it goes over the top. Once you come out, look for the blue, look for the green, look for the blue again, level out and fly away.
This part of the display is the crossover brake by the Gazelles, made even more impressive by the separation between the rotor blades.
And one of the points I always make about formation flying in particular, fast jets, let's take the Red Arrows as an example, they fly very, very closely together, within maybe 10 feet aircraft to aircraft. But I think the thing to remember about that is you have two fixed-wing aircraft and they touch wings doing a relatively similar speed at 10 feet. It's no major disaster. But if you consider that the rotor blades on our helicopters are turning at just below the speed of sound, if they were to touch, then it's goodbye to two helicopters, if not more, because they would also be caught in the wreckage. And it's rather frustrating in many ways, because when you look at a helicopter formation, all you see really is the fuselage. It's very difficult to see the rotor disc. So it always tends to look as if the helicopters are quite a long way apart, when in reality they're only one rotor's diameter apart, which is, believe me, very, very close indeed.
The public often get the chance to meet the team. Clearly, something both the public and the team enjoy.
Feedback's probably one of the most important things that we get, because we can display all day and think, yeah, look at us, we're great. But actually, the people who don't know you, who come along, and one of the greatest things, a guy comes up to you after the display, who you've never met, and says, great display, guys, fantastic, didn't know helicopters could do that. And that to me, that makes the day. And that's why we're there. We're not there for our benefit.
Support comes from a team of engineers who accompany the team to displays to perform vital servicing and maintenance on the helicopters. This year, they also have the first female military display team pilot.
Certainly when I was a child, I went from airshow to airshow because my father was in Blue Eagles. He's been in Blue Eagles 3 times, so my father's really proud. I mean, he's really chuffed. He certainly gave me a lot of advice, a lot of encouragement. It's been good. I love it. I think it's a brilliant job, and I would love to do it again. It's just such fantastic flying. You're actually doing flying that you don't do in your normal day-to-day job, as a pilot. And to be able to throw the aircraft around and actually be given permission to do that is just fantastic. I'm actually the first female that's been in the Blue Eagles, and that's actually been in a helicopter display team, so I'm very proud of that fact. It's been excellent fun. I hope it continues, and a good bunch of guys that we're actually working with. Nothing's been difficult. I haven't come across any problems whatsoever. I get a lot of stick, but I give back as good as I get.
So take your seats and enjoy a flight with the Blue Eagles. The Shuttleworth Collection at Old Warden hosts a number of shows during the season, including a number of sunset displays. The summer air show saw many of the collection's unique aircraft being wheeled out to fly and for static display. The atmosphere at Shuttleworth airshows is unique, almost like a garden party. But the pilots take the flying very seriously.
The policy of the Shuttleworth collection is that we believe that these aeroplanes should be shown in the air, which is obviously the correct environment from them. But with that in mind, we're very aware that they're one-off old aircraft, and we therefore fly them very gently, well within any of their limitations. And the aim really is just to allow people to see them flying.
A new addition this year is a remarkable replica of a Bristol M1C. Built by the Northern Aeroplane Workshops using the original plans, it's painted in the colours of 72 Squadron, operating in Mesopotamia during 1918. The M1C first entered service with the RFC in 1916 and was not used over the Western Front, instead being used in flying training stations. The collection's chief pilot, Andy Sefton, put the M1C through its paces in a fine display that also featured the legendary Sopwith triplane. Another new addition was the Southern Martlet. This aircraft was awarded Vintage Aeroplane of the Year by the Vintage Aircraft Club. A classic example of the oldest Miles design, the Martlet was restored by the engineers at the Shuttleworth Collection. Six of these aircraft were originally built by Miles and were used for aerobatic displays and demonstrations. This aircraft was, for several years, the personal mount of F.G. Miles. After the war, it was acquired by Butlins holiday camps, who used it to give displays for holiday makers. Next is a fighter flypast, with the collection's Gloucester Gladiator, Spitfire and Sea Hurricane. This is followed by 2 of the 3 remaining airworthy Miles Magisters, accompanied by the collection's new de Havilland Chipmunk, painted in Royal Canadian Air Force colours. Another flying legend is the Percival Mewgull. Purchased in 1937 by Alex Henshaw, it was completely modified for air racing by Essex Aero. After winning the King's Cup in it, he then went on to break the record for the return flight from England to Cape Town in 1939. Over 12,000 miles in 39 hours and 23 minutes, a record which stands to this day.
Yeah, my name is Frank Chapman. I'm fortunate enough to be one of the Shuttleworth Collection pilots. And the aircraft you see behind me is the Hawker Tomtit pre-war trainer that was developed by Hawkers for an Air Ministry competition for a trainer for the Royal Air Force in around about the early 1930s. The aircraft's powered by the Armstrong Siddeley Mongoose 5-cylinder radial engine. Plenty of power, slow revving engine, which makes the aeroplane really quite a delight to fly. This is the sole surviving Hawker Tomtit produced by Hawkers in that mid-war period. It's very pleasant to fly. It has ailerons on the lower span only, so it's a little bit slow in roll, but generally very easy as a tail dragger to fly. However, on the ground it doesn't have any brakes. It's directionally not ideal, so we have to use wing walkers when manoeuvring on the ground. Generally, when we display at Old Warden, most of the aircraft do not have radios, so we manage on light signals if required from the tower, or work based on timings. At a bigger show like Duxford, it becomes a little bit more complex, and therefore the brief is that much more involved to make sure we deconflict with other traffic.
Another famous Shuttleworth aircraft is this original Avro 504K, primarily used as a training aircraft in World War I and between the wars. It was 4 504s that made the first bombing attacks of World War I. Always popular with the crowds are the very early types. This 1910 Deperdussin is powered by an Anzani engine that powered the aircraft to speeds of 55 miles per hour, although today it is flown a lot gentler than that. Difficult to control in the air and on the ground, this is a real challenge for Andy Sefton to fly.